The Linnean system clearly defines the species. We are, of course, in the Droseraceae family. Oops, steady there. As I was saying, family comes before genus.
Absolutely. Family comes before genus and family comes before everything else. Okay. Anyway, let's start. Hello, guys. A very warm welcome to all of you. Today, we'll be starting a new course in botany, which will mainly cater to the students of PSC plus 2 and plus 3 exams of various states. Especially, our focus will be on the JKPSC, Jammu Kashmir PSC plus 2 and plus 3 exams. This course will also be helpful for NEET aspirants because we'll be delving into the details of the core concepts here. Whenever we are introduced to the subject of biology, we are said that this is the scientific study of living organisms. Okay, and if we look at the earth, if we look at our surroundings, we find there is so much variety of living organisms present. Here in this picture, if you see, there is so much variety of living organisms, including insects, birds, okay, plants on which these birds are perching, elephants. You have frog. You have this little cub of hungul kind of a thing, and then you have volvulus. You have flowering plants, and then there is this representation of a single celled, especially a bacteria maybe. So the main point is there is so much variety of living organisms on this earth, and it is estimated that there are 5 to 30 million species present here, and among them only 1.7 to 1.8 million species have been identified, characterized, and classified, which is very less number. So you see how much we are missing, and how much we are discovering with each day. But unfortunately, with each day, already existing species are getting extinct. So maybe there are so many species that have gone extinct, about which we do not know anything. Okay. Among these 1.7 to 1.8 million species, 70% are animals. Okay. And 22% are plants. So we have been told that there are main two types of organisms on this earth. One is the plants, and the other is the animals. But there are other types as well, like bacteria. We have archaebacteria, we have fungi, we have many other kinds of organisms that we will look into. And among 70% animals, the most diverse group recorded is of arthropods, which are also called as insects. Okay. And in case of plants, the most diverse group is of angiosperms. What are angiosperms? Angiosperms are those plants which bear flowers. For example, here is the plant having a flower, and this flower is a peculiar adaptation that made these angiosperms most diverse group of plants on this earth right now. Since there is so much diversity, so much variety of living organisms, it becomes very difficult to study these all at once. Hence, what scientists have done, they have classified these organisms into various groups, and they do it in a systematic manner, which we refer to as systematicus or taxonomy, that we will look into. These systematics and taxonomy are kind of they have a faint kind of distinction between them, but we will look into it, what systematics mean and what taxonomy mean. Okay. Let's move ahead. Let's have a look at the what biodiversity means. If you look at the word biodiversity itself, the word biodiversity is made up of two words: bio, okay, and diversity. Bio means life, and diversity means variety. And there are these three main groups of living organisms on this earth. One is microorganisms, second plants, which is also called flora, and then you have animals, which is also called fauna. Okay, microorganisms, if you look at, they are so micro, so tiny that we are not able to see them with our naked eyes. It includes viruses, it includes bacteria, okay, and also some protists. Protists are eukaryotic organisms, while as these bacteria are prokaryotic organisms. I hope we are acquainted with this concept of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. If not, we will again discuss it in very much detail. But what you have to remember here is microorganisms are those organisms which we are not able to see with our naked eyes, and it includes viruses, bacteria, and protists. Okay, moving ahead. Okay, so there are three levels of biodiversity. One is at the genetic level, the second is at the species level, and the third is at the ecosystem level. So let's understand what do we mean by this. Uh, Biodiversity encompasses diversity at these three different levels. There is, in case of genetic diversity, there is so many different kinds of genes. Okay, there is so many different kinds of we can say alleles in a population, and there is so many kinds of chromosomes. Okay, so the variety at the allele level or the gene level, at the DNA level, is referred to as genetic diversity. If you look at a population and we see the frequency of various alleles, and that frequency of various alleles is referred to as genetic diversity. More frequency means more diversity. More frequency of different alleles. What is an allele? An allele, if you look at it, allele is an alternative forms of a gene. Okay, you have a gene, and then you have uh, alternate form, means you have different forms, variations of that gene, which are called as alleles. Okay, and then species diversity. Species means a group of organisms. If you define a species according to the biological species concept, species, group of organisms which can interbreed and produce fertile offsprings. That is, a species consists of individuals which are able to breed with each other, which are able to reproduce and produce fertile offsprings. That's called a species. And if you have two species, they are said to be reproductively isolated, means they cannot interbreed. If they do, they will not produce any fertile offspring. And then we move to another level, which is the ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem, it's a self-sustaining system, it is called, where a community of organisms interacts with environment. So there is this constant interaction between different types of living organisms in an area with their environment, and this creates some feedback loops. Okay, feedback loops of energy, biomass, interconversion, which is called ecosystem. We will be discussing everything in the detail. We will be discussing the genetic diversity at the population level, which is called a population ecology, or population genetics. Then species diversity. Okay, we will look at what species diversity means. Species diversity has main two components. One is the number of species, the other is the number of a particular species in that area. And then you have ecosystem diversity. Okay, we will discuss different kinds of ecosystems, and what are the components of a particular ecosystem, and how this ecosystem is a self-sustaining system in ecology. Okay, so moving ahead. Biodiversity, as we know, has various importances, and it's important for regulating Earth's physical, chemical, and geological properties. Okay, obviously, to understand this huge diversity, it is important to organize different kinds of organisms. This is where plant taxonomy comes in, that we already discussed. What is taxonomy? This term was given by de Candolle, which who was a Swiss botanist, and he actually coined the term taxonomy to refer to the theory of plant classification. And now, what we define taxonomy as methods and principles of classification of any group of organisms. Okay, and this taxonomy is a branch of systematics, which is a broader discipline. Now, here comes the distinction between the two. If you look at systematics, systematics is the scientific study of kinds and diversity of organisms and of any and all relationships among them. It's a bit complex and sentence. Let's break it down. Systematics is the scientific study of kinds. Kinds means there is, as we already talked about, there is 1.6 million approximately species characterized. Okay, and diversity. Diversity means suppose you have a species A and species B in a particular area, right? So you say that there is number of species is 2. But how many individuals of this species A and how many individuals of species B? Okay, that's called dominance, or we can say simply number of individuals of a particular species. That is diversity. Diversity has two components. One is the species richness, and the other component is called species evenness. That means how many individuals of species A are there and how many individuals of species B are there. Species richness is simply the number of species in a particular area. So the scientific study of species richness, species evenness, and different kinds of species on this earth, and of any and all relationships among them. In a wherever these species are present, they interact with each other. Okay, species interactions are there. These species interactions could be beneficial for one species and harmful for another species. It could be beneficial for both, which is called a mutualism. So the species interactions that happen, and the diversity and the kinds of the diversity and the number and evenness of these species in a particular ecosystem in a particular region, when you scientifically study these things, okay, this is called systematics. And taxonomy is a part of the systematics. Okay, as you look at here, this whole circle represents systematics, and taxonomy is one part of this whole circle. And systematics consists of the study of the process of evolution. Okay, how these organisms have evolved over the period of time and gave rise to such diversity here. Study of phylogeny, that means how, when, and where these organisms have diversified over the period of time. Then you have taxonomy also included into it, which is classification process. You have individuals, then you group them into a particular group, which is called taxon, and then you categorize it, whether it's a genus, it's a species, okay, and then you give them the ranks. This naming is called taxonomy. So taxonomy is a subdiscipline of systematics, which studies, okay, the kinds and diversity of organisms. Systematics, I mean, okay. So I hope it's clear now. Um, I think it's important to get around these terms before we proceed further. Systematic is, as I said, scientific study of kinds and diversity of organisms and of any and all relationships among them. This we already discussed. Then we said taxonomy is a sub-discipline of systematicus, which deals with the naming of these organisms, which deals with classification of these organisms. And then there is this term called classification. Classification is simply the ordering of organisms into groups based on similarities. Okay, so this is classification. Nomenclature is naming of groups of organisms and the rules governing these names. How you name a particular plant, particular individual, that comes under nomenclature. And how you order it, how you place it with respect to the others based on the similarities, that is called classification. Okay. And then you have identification, which involves referring an individual specimen to a previously classified and named group. Identification, what do you identify? You identify any unknown organism, any unknown individual. You see, let me give you an example. If you take a sample, plant sample from anywhere, from any region, okay, you want to know what it is. What you do, you go to some particular source of information where you see that is there any kind of plant, any kind of specimen that matches with this new organism, that matches with this new species. And then you start to look at and match the various characteristics, and finally you may be identifying this as some plant belonging to a particular genus, particular species. Okay, or you may find that okay, this plant does not match with any of the specimens that are already identified, that are already present in my information source. So you then report it as a new species. Okay, so this identification, I mean, involves matching the characteristics of a known specimen with a known one. Okay, we will see there are different ways to identify a particular specimen that we will look into the details. Okay. Okay, so with this out of way, let's move ahead. Okay, I think we will stop here for today. We will continue with the classification in the next class. But remember this circle you need to remember, especially the taxonomy. Okay, we will be looking at the classification process, and in that classification process, what are the different methods that we use? We will be studying them one by one.